This Ukrainian prison is so harsh that every year, over 50 inmates decide they'd rather die than endure the conditions any longer. Yet, in a relentless commitment to punishment, the prison staff saves each one, breathing life back into them. The prison operates under a simple principle. A life sentence is a life sentence. No shortcuts allowed, not even by a minute or a second, and especially not by suicide. As for escaping, it's virtually impossible. In the prison's century-plus history, no prisoner has ever succeeded in breaking out. Today, we'll step inside this icy, unforgiving Ukrainian penitentiary to understand what makes life inside a living hell for its inmates. Located in the northwestern part of Ukraine, just a 2-hour drive from the capital city of Kyiv, Zhytomyr is a city worn down by a long-standing economic crisis and the scars of war. The average monthly income here? A paltry $300. This cocktail of poverty and corruption has stirred up a steady rise in the city's crime rate, and the most egregious criminals find themselves shipped off to the chilling confines of Penal Colony Number 8. Just hearing the name is enough to give you goosebumps. The prison exudes a grim industrial vibe, a vestige of its past life as a Soviet labor camp. Come 8 a.m., it's time for prison officer Christopher to clock in. Thorough pat-downs are mandatory for anyone stepping inside the prison. Cell phones, alcohol, weapons, drugs, and even energy drinks, they're all on the no-go list. Once you're inside, you're greeted by an intimidating sight, a seemingly endless stretch of barbed wire, watchtowers manned by fully armed snipers ready to strike at any moment, and a towering 4-meter wall, effectively isolating the prison from the outside world. This wall, scarred with bullet holes, tells tales of past executions. The buildings might look like they're past their prime, but don't be fooled. They're kitted out with cutting-edge surveillance systems that detect any suspicious activity. In the prison's 100-year legacy, not a single inmate has managed to outsmart this fortress. First thing in the morning, 40 prison officers gather for a meeting where the warden announces the daily updates, such as inmates exhibiting unstable behavior or tendencies for self-harm. These notes are meticulously documented, partly to protect the officers themselves, and partly to ensure that the prisoners serve their sentences in full without resorting to suicide as an escape. Depending on the level of threat posed by the inmates, the prison is divided into 3 zones. Zone 1 houses detainees awaiting trial, some of whom have been waiting for years. Zone 2 houses inmates with lighter offenses, mainly involving theft, robbery, and violent crimes, with sentences not exceeding 15 years. Zone 3 is for high-risk prisoners, an area dubbed as the prison within the prison, housing murderers and neo-Nazis, and mostly kept in solitary confinement. At 6 a.m., prisoners in Zone 2 rise, followed by roll call and morning exercises. These inmates aren't required to wear handcuffs or undergo body searches, as the prison has a clever strategy to keep them in check: inmate monitoring. If one prisoner misbehaves, the entire group faces punishment. Under such a system, even the most rebellious inmate wouldn't dare act out, for they know they'd face a rough time back in their cells. Alexander's work begins in the high-risk zone, an area completely segregated from the rest, accessible only through a multi-tiered security system of mechanical and electronic locks. The inmates here are serving sentences for at least 2 murders, and barring any exceptions, they're expected to serve till their last breath. The sight is grim. Although located on the 3rd floor, it feels more like a basement, as though it's a den for ferocious beasts. Every cell door bears a detailed profile of the inmate, including their name, age, offense, and any tendencies for aggression or suicide. This is done to facilitate management for the officers and to remind them not to harbor any sympathy for these predators. These are lifers who have nothing to lose. Alexander's greatest worry, he admits, is facing an inmate's attack. Hence, every cell door opening requires the presence of 3 guards and a dog. Inmate exits have a strict protocol. They must turn their backs to the officers, be handcuffed, and only then is the rear door opened. And to prevent an inmate from charging out to attack the officers, the cell doors are deliberately designed to be narrow, requiring one to sidle through. Meet Vladimir, a man who curiously resembles NBA legend Manu Ginobili. He's been locked up for 23 years for a pair of murder convictions. Unlike many of his fellow inmates who've surrendered to depression, Vladimir clings to a glimmer of hope that a shift in Ukrainian politics could possibly lead to their release. He's quick to point out that the key to prison life is simply survival. Counting down the years will only drive you insane. He's thought about escape, but that's easier said than done. Arguably, it's even tougher than staring death in the face. The guards are always on patrol, eagle-eyed for any minor rule breaking, from wearing the wrong uniform to hiding their name tags. For quick response, every cell is marked with an exterior number. At the first sign of trouble, the guards are there in a flash. The prison pulls out all the stops periodically, staging impressive drills that send a clear message to the inmates. Don't even think about escaping. Although the prisoners can't see the action, the echoing gunfire and booming explosions are more than enough. But the prison's real secret weapon? The dogs. These loyal canines are trained to tell the difference between inmate and officer uniforms, and even distinguish between scents. If any inmate dares to attack an officer or make a break for it, they're met with a tenacious bite that won't let go. If that's not enough to keep them in line, there's always the dreaded solitary confinement, a barren room with nothing but a toilet. A minimum sentence here is 2 weeks, under conditions so stifling it makes death seem like a better option. For inmates showing good behavior and passing psychological evaluations, there's a chance to work at the prison factory. Despite harsh working conditions and a complete lack of safety equipment, the chance to break free from the tedium of prison life makes it a coveted opportunity. The pay is €30 a month. Although it can only be spent at the prison's commissary, the shop offers a variety of necessities. Toilet paper is the hot ticket item, as it's not provided for free. Those without money have to get, let's say, creative after using the bathroom. The only opening for smuggling goods in or out is through the delivery trucks that bring in daily food supplies. These are always the focus of the guards' inspections, especially the large ones, with countless hidey holes like engine compartments or under the seats. Some inmates try to bribe the drivers, who only make less than €200 a month. Each inspection takes over an hour, and it's the same story when the vehicles leave. Every day, fresh food deliveries head straight to the kitchen where a crew of inmate chefs are stirring up their concoctions. They're all prisoners, of course. Given that knives are involved, violent criminals and murderers naturally can't get the job. Every morning, guards hand out the knives, logging each one. If a knife goes missing by the end of the day, no one leaves the kitchen. Prison funds are tight, so each meal has to stretch to cover a budget of roughly 30 cents. Therefore, choosing ingredients is an art. Nearing expiry rice and slightly spoiled fish are top picks. Toss them into the pot, stir it up, and you get a final product that's as unappetizing as it looks, with a taste all its own. Served 3 times a day, every day, inmates have adapted to be less picky eaters. For those serving hard time, meals are delivered directly to their cells with no contact or conversation with the staff. Being cooped up in this narrow cell 24 hours a day can easily lead to depression. That's why guards allow them some respite in the form of yard time. But yard time just means being shuttled to an enclosed courtyard where interaction with neighboring inmates is strictly off limits. Over time, this psychological isolation proves even more daunting than losing physical freedom. Meet Otto, a once notorious gang leader. He's been locked up here for 12 years. During every yard time, he maximizes his workout, believing a healthy body will help him make a comeback once he's released. Yet, the lonely life inside has softened this once ruthless man into a doting cat lover. The guards tend not to fuss over this. After all, being too strict could backfire. Each year, some inmates resort to suicide to escape their punishment. Outside the prison walls, inmates pass the time by passing packages around, with guards turning a blind eye. At 10 p.m., all inmates are back in their beds. With no work or meals to distract them, they plunge into an abyss of emptiness and boredom. It's tough, but it's the price they pay for their crimes. Many inmates endure this monotonous existence until their dying day. One Ukrainian viewer commented on the documentary, claiming the guards were unusually friendly and the inmates unusually quiet, most likely due to the presence of a camera. Off-camera, however, these guards are allegedly brutal, even resorting to torture. For the right price, they'd even turn a blind eye to contraband like cell phones and drugs. He and his friends even received scam calls from inmates. Whether or not there's truth to this claim is uncertain. What's clear, however, is that life in Colony Number 8 is far more brutal than what's shown. And that's where we'll end today's video. What do you think? Compared to the prisons in our previous 2 videos, which one seems tougher to endure? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked our video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos. See you in the next one.